My marriage has been a truly happy one. My wife and I have always been side by side, like water, inseparable. In an effort to provide for both of us, I worked hard. However, life took an unexpected turn after a discovery made by a friend of mine at the gym. He shared some shocking news with me. According to him, my wife had fallen ill with a serious illness, which caused me to have doubts. He also mentioned that Melissa was dating another man. This information I decided to verify for myself. In our marriage of 13 years now, we were happy. We did everything together. We went to the same gym, ate at the same table, and, I thought, shared all our secrets. But last week brought an unexpected twist to my life. My friend Frank, a man who is incredibly loyal, called me. He said it was important. Frank had warned me about a hidden connection between my wife Melissa and another guy named Larry, known for his reputation as a womanizer. At first, I didn't believe in the possibility of Melissa cheating on me, much less in our relationship. But then Frank reported some strange communication between the two of them on Thursdays. On those days, I had to stay late at work, sacrificing personal time for our comfort. During that time, Melissa would go to the gym alone to keep in shape. Larry knew this and took advantage of her loneliness. Overwhelmed with fear, I did something I had never done before. I checked Melissa's cell phone. What I discovered in the correspondence on the little-known messaging app shocked me. Each message was like a blow to the gut. They planned to meet this coming Thursday and leave the gym at different times to meet at a nearby hotel. Larry would arrive first. 20 minutes later, Melissa would join him. It resembled a melodrama script, but it was my reality. Despite the whirlwind of anger, betrayal, and heartache inside me, a sudden sense of calm and determination swept over me like an icy shroud. I am not one to accept the role of victim. I am a man of action in many ways. Typing these lines in a darkened room, it's late, and Melissa is asleep in our bed, unaware of the impending storm. Her cell phone lies beside me. Compromising evidence glows in the dark. I won't let this slip away. I will not sit idly by while my marriage crumbles. I plan to disrupt this little scheme. The exact method is yet to be determined, but one thing is certain, I will not be a pawn. This is a war of sorts, a battle of wits. My strategy is to strike where it hurts the most. My retaliation will be calculated and just, fueled by a deep sense of betrayal and injustice. My resolve should not be interpreted as cruelty. It is a response to the deep wounds inflicted by betrayal. I will come back and share the outcome, but for now, I need to plan and strategize so that every detail fits perfectly in its place. The game only ends with the last move, and rest assured, I intend to make that last move. It may be my darkest hour, but it is also a time to restore my dignity and self-respect, ensuring that the game ends in my triumph. All is set, the dice are rolled, and my wife will soon learn that this day is a day she will never forget. I will not remain an abused and betrayed husband, but by no means defeated. I will. I slept poorly and woke up sleepy, but my wife's betrayal pushed me forward, becoming my point of strength. I arranged for a few trusted coworkers to take over my workload. This allowed me to leave the office early, altering my normal schedule for the sake of an unexpected meeting. This secret meeting on Thursday was going to change the dynamics of my marriage and the life of another person. After careful investigation, I discovered the shocking truth. Larry, who had invaded my family life, turned out to be not as lonely as he pretended to be. His wife, just like me, had no suspicion of her husband's infidelity. What's more, they had children. I was shocked to learn that the chessboard was set up, and I was ready to make my move. I made the call, a seemingly simple action with profound consequences. I decided to call his wife, whom we'll call Sarah. She answered with unsuspecting joy, and we struck up a conversation. Now, let the tension of that discussion linger. That Thursday night, thanks to information from my gym buddy Frank, I knew Larry had left the gym for a meeting. My heart was pounding like a hurricane as I parked my car across the street from said hotel. Watching and waiting, about 5 minutes after Larry walked in, another car pulled up. Sarah had arrived. We discreetly parked away from prying eyes in the breakfast room adjacent to the lobby. It was the eerie calm before the storm, reminiscent of the silence that precedes a storm. My mind was spinning, but I felt an unusual sense of calm. The stakes were high, but so was my resolve. When Melissa walked in, passing the breakfast room, I called out to her, "Hi, honey." Her face reflected the shock of a deer caught in headlights, widened eyes, agile lips, and considerable pallor. Her surprise at finding me in a place she least expected was obvious. "Come in here and let's talk for a minute," I said. She hesitated. I walked in slowly and she glanced at Sarah before shifting her gaze back to me. There was a fleeting moment in her gaze as she seemed to consider the possibility that I might be in the hotel with another woman. Her expression almost turned to relief until I introduced Sarah as Larry's wife. Her demeanor changed instantly. She began to apologize, expressing shock. However, I interrupted her with a dismissive gesture and Sarah threw a disapproving look at her. I asked sternly what room he was in. My voice broke through the tension. Melissa hesitated and Sarah, teetering on the brink of an emotional breakdown, repeated my question, demanding to know the answer. I repeated my question, this time in a cold and adamant tone. After what seemed like an eternity, Melissa muttered, "Room 415. I insisted she give me her phone number. Melissa's phone could not be unlocked with the old password, but my stare left no room for defiance. To my surprise, she reluctantly gave out a new PIN. She mumbled the code 6901. I accessed her phone, found the communication app they used, and sent Larry a text telling him I'd be here soon. I headed for room 415. There was an almost deafening silence in the hallway. As I stood in front of the door, my heart was pounding. I took a deep breath and knocked. Larry opened the door. His face turned pale when he saw me. Surprise turned to horror as I walked in, grabbed him by the hair and pushed him into a chair. His eyes widened in horror and the smell of fear filled the room. He may have even gotten his pants a little dirty. Larry's bravado crumbled to dust. He shrank back pitifully and a cold satisfaction swept over me. Grabbing him by the back of the head, I uttered a stern warning, explaining my intentions. "Listen, Larry, get out of our lives, get out of the gym, and never contact Melissa again." Larry muttered an indefinite agreement. I continued, warning him that if he didn't comply, Sarah would find out all the details. Although she already knew most of the story, he begged me not to involve her further. There was a look of remorse in his eyes. He promised to comply if I kept my silence in front of Sarah. The fear in his gaze was palpable. I mentally registered his promises. After a few slaps to assure his submission, I walked away, leaving him trembling in his chair. Sure, he could have threatened a lawsuit, but it was clear he wouldn't dare to take serious steps. He realized his own stupidity. In the lobby, I met Melissa. There was shock and horror on her face. Apparently, the conversation with Sarah had never happened. It had gone well. Pointing to the door, I told her to go home. She left in tears, realizing the seriousness of her actions. Sarah, pale but collected, asked about the outcome. I told her I had delivered my message, wished her luck, and went home. The confrontation continued. Melissa tried to explain and defend her position, but I wasn't interested. Her actions spoke louder than words. I advised her to prepare for the move. She reluctantly agreed, realizing that her remorse had no effect on my resolve. A week later, Melissa and I coexisted in the same house, leading parallel lives. She tried to revive what she had lost, but it was too late. She was no longer the woman I loved. She had become a stranger. I made it clear that there was no hope of seeing her as she used to be. I expect a response from Sarah soon. If that happens, I will provide an update on her situation in this last post. I want to express my gratitude for following my journey. Your support has meant a lot to me. I have received many personal messages about Sarah and Melissa. Let me set the record straight a few weeks after the confrontation. Sarah called me, and you could hear the anxiety in her voice. She told me about her encounter with Larry at the hotel. As he was about to leave, he was met with a cold stare from his wife in the breakfast room. Larry fell to his knees, begging for forgiveness. Out of compassion, Sarah decided to give him a chance. They are now attending marriage counseling to salvage what is left. I wish her peace and happiness whether they stay together or not. As for Melissa, she is leaving and our communication is now strictly through lawyers. I will not allow her transgressions to disturb my peace any longer. My divorce will be finalized soon. Although I will have to pay alimony, I see it as the price for peace and dignity. As for my future, I am not sure about a new marriage. Right now, I want to focus on work, pursue hobbies that were overshadowed during my married life. I plan to go to the gym, attend concerts, and fulfill my dream of traveling to Europe. This experience has taught me that life is unpredictable. We must adapt and find strength in adversity. I'm grateful for the chance to move on. What do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Tell us what you would do if you were in a similar situation. I think the man did the right thing even though he was under a lot of emotional stress. What do you think? Now on to the second story. It's short, but no less interesting. I need to share this incredible experience with you guys. It was the most surreal and crazy experience of my life, and I'm not sure I'll ever fully recover. Here's what happened. Deborah, my new wife, cheated during our honeymoon. We were at a beautiful seaside resort celebrating our love. But on the second day, her behavior became strange. She was disappearing here for extended periods of time, and my suspicions peaked on the fourth day. I decided to follow her. To my horror, I witnessed her enter another room with a man she had been socializing with at the resort. Devastated and angry, I witnessed this betrayal. I quickly returned to our room and packed my luggage, made an impulsive decision to completely belittle her, left her with only the swimsuit she was wearing. Her ID I left at the front desk upon checkout. It was an extreme step, but I wanted to make it as difficult as possible for her to get home. I bought time to get my stuff before she could catch up with me. As I left the resort, my emotions raged within me. However, I was determined to stick to my decision. A few days later, Deborah's mother called me and scolded me for my actions. It turns out that Deborah was in a panic when she realized that I had left our room without any explanation. She was left without money for clothes or a phone and had to call her parents for help. Deborah eventually admitted to cheating on me at the hotel. Meanwhile, she found herself without gas and stranded on the side of the road. She called for roadside assistance, which made her humiliating experience even worse. I left our apartment long before she returned. Didn't leave a note or respond to her numerous attempts to contact me. Her betrayal was too deep. I changed my phone number, blocked her, and cut off all communication. Messages from her friends and family sprinkled in, berating or sympathizing with me. I didn't respond to any of them. A few weeks later, I received a long letter from Deborah. In it, she apologized and tried to justify her actions. Despite the pain in her words, it didn't change the fact that she had betrayed me in the worst possible way. I did not speak to her as that was the end of my story. What conclusion do you draw? Write your opinion in the comments. Which story do you like the most? Support, put a like and subscribe to the channel. It's my pleasure. Goodbye.